Hi guys, welcome back for another one. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. Normally we cover Marvel Strike Force here on this channel, but I'm a huge Marvel fan and I really love watching Marvel movies, shows, all the 10 yards, right? So today I'm going to try doing a different video where we're going to give spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, I highly recommend that you do log off this video because we are going to be talking about Venom 2 and the What If series, and obviously it's going to come with spoilers. So with that said, if you guys are ready for this, actually before we get to that, I also want to let you guys know I am joined by the info dealer, some guy, but someone who's in the background that really helps me with my content. He's kind of behind the scenes, Discord and Twitch. How's it going, Info?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Ready to roll. Let's do this.
All right. Now, with all that said, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. All right, this is your last warning that we are about ready to discuss spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so we're gonna kick this off talking about the thing you guys see on your screen right now, Venom 2. Info, you've seen Venom 2. What are your thoughts on it? What would you rate it?
If we're talking on an out of 10 scale, I liked it. I didn't love it. Um, there was parts that they did better than the first, parts that fell a little short from the first, in my opinion. I would probably give it a high 6, low 7 out of 10.
All right, yeah, I kind of agree there. I think a Marvel fan will enjoy the movie. I don't think it's anything fantastic, but I think this also is a hard movie to get a non-Marvel fan to like. So, um, just overall, that's my thoughts on it when I saw it. But I mean, as a Marvel fan, I definitely enjoyed it. Definitely don't regret going to see it. And I highly recommend if you are a Marvel fan and you don't like having things spoiled for you, definitely go check it out. And you should also probably check off this video right now. So with that said, let's get into like the ending stuff because I think that's where I really want to talk about the movie because I don't get a chance to talk about it in all my other content that we do. Let's jump to the end scene credit. There's two things I'll talk about, but I think the end scene credit is probably the most that people want to talk about. Where at the very end, Venom and Eddie are having some banter back and forth. Venom's like, I'm going to unleash billions of years of knowledge onto you, and then all of a sudden you have this bright flashing light, and when they come back they're in pretty much the same hotel room, but it's like much more fancier. And then you see Jonah Jameson on the TV screen, blasting Spider-Man like he always does, showing that Peter Parker as Spider-Man. So I want to get your thoughts. I have my thoughts on Instant Credit, but I really want to have some conspiracy theories here. Right? I don't spend a whole lot of time looking for spoilers because I don't really want spoilers when it comes to the MCU. But what are your thoughts here? What do you think is going on in this end scene credit?
To me, the end scene credit, well, it read to me as they're merging into the MCU, which I'm pretty sure everyone was able to piece that together.
Yeah.
But the flash of light, the hotel room changed, everything looked different, and then he's just sitting there in what we would presume was the hotel room that he was staying in, that he had paid for, he owned it, quote
Yeah.
unquote, for that time being. Then after this flash and everything, there's some other dude just shows up like, "What are you doing in my room?"
Yeah.
To me, that red combined with the flashing light, that they jumped universes.
Yes. I do think they
Uh,
jumped universes. So the question becomes, what event inspired them to jump universes?
mm, um, there are a couple different theories floating around, but the prevailing theory that at least I enjoy and I think that it is the events of Spider-Man No Way Home that we're going to be seeing up in the next couple months, from when this video is being recorded. Next couple months,
Cool.
of Doctor Strange's spell in that moment where he broke the multiverse, so to speak.
Yeah.
I
So
think that was the pivot point.
yeah, so I'm glad we kind of have the same theory because my theory when I saw that and I jumped out of the theater and I'm driving home in my car and I'm thinking this ending just doesn't make any sense. How did he just skip universes and then see Spider-Man as Peter Parker when the obviously the trailer for No Way Home shows Strange getting rid of everyone knowing that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, right? We see that in the trailer. So to me, I'm thinking that spell has to go wrong, right? He was told not to do it. Peter Parker's like talking over him while he's trying to cast it. Something has to go wrong, right?
Yeah, speaking to the scenes from No Way Home, I believe I heard someone say that it's drawing parallels to an older comic book line in the Spider-Man series that not it wasn't overwhelmingly popular, called the no sorry One More Day
Huh.
timeline, where Peter Parker approached Strange for something similar, and had that same series of events where he realized, everyone's going to forget. Then he started tampering with the spell, and then everything went awry, and it's just time and space fractured, and everything just got so much worse, and it came down to desperate measures to try to correct it. And I think that this is the comic line that they're drawing from, and I think that in the same way that in the comic series he tampered with the spell to the point that it just created so many unintended consequences. I think they're using that as the doorway to bring in this fringe character like Venom, and having knowledge they wouldn't necessarily have up until that point.
Okay, that's all good. I wasn't aware of that. I'm not like I tell everybody all the time. Like I grew up on X Men. You want to talk about all of the Marvel properties? I'm not going to be as knowledgeable in because like I grew up on X Men, but I'm a huge like with the MCU and Disney and Marvel coming together, created is definitely maybe a once in a lifetime thing because you obviously see that the DC comics try to do the same thing and it doesn't work out for them as well. So with that said, were you shocked that they seemed to put a definite end to the Carnage storyline in this movie, where Venom ate the Carnage, the Carnage symbiote, and then Venom also decapitated and ate the head of Cletus Cassidy? Were you surprised that they put a definite end to Carnage in this series?
Yeah, I was surprised that to see such locally speaking, prominent villain of the
Yeah,
Marvel series and Carnage to be cut down so soon and so finally.
yeah.
But it seemed a little premature to me. But with this new direction, they're panning the camera towards the MCU. I think they could be trying to go in a different direction. But one thing I'm curious to know about is, again, jumping back to the comic lines, the Detective Mulligan actually was a symbiote host for the son of Carnage
Huh.
in the comic book lines, and I believe toward the end of the Venom movie, we actually, or in the yeah, in the movie, we see him with the glowing eyes, and I think that's what they're hinting at as a possible future problem for Venom to have to solve in unless they fully pan towards the MCU and they just wanted. I'm not sure where they're gonna go with that actually.
Yeah, yeah. Because actually, you kind of jumped ahead because I was going to my like final question was about the cop officer that you assumed was dead, but then his eyes open and they glow purple, and to see
Ah,
what theories did you think were there? So you're saying that he might be another offspring of Carnage or Carnage himself?
um, he at least in the comics played host to Toxin, the offspring of Carnage.
Okay.
So they could pivot there because they made no bones about it that they want to inform us several times that Mulligan does not like Brock at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. All right.
So I think they could try to play off of that to a greater degree. But given the shorter runtime of Venom 2,
Yeah.
if they follow that trend in the future, I think if they're trying to pull double duty, running their own thing and pointing toward the MCU at the same time, it's gonna feel like a very drowned out movie.
Yeah. So. I guess we'll see if Toxic is going to come. How they're going to continue this franchise. I'm pretty sure it did well enough in the box office to warrant a third movie in this series. But the other thing is now just turning towards No Way Home. Probably my final question here is: do you think Venom will turn up in Spider-Man No Way Home as another one of like those traditional villains, in the different, the previous Spider-Man series? Do you think we'll see a Venom in No Way Home going after Spider-Man, or you think eventually it'll be a
Mm.
separate movie, Spider-Man and Venom?
I think the presence or lack of presence of a Venom is going to be very contingent on how far they decide to push the multiverse. You know, Strange professed himself, we know frighteningly little about the multiverse, and then the question becomes, because the other theories exist where we're seeing like Raimi's Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, and Alfred Molina, and Willem Dafoe. That universe is coming in.
Yeah.
Um, are they going to try to juxtapose that Venom coming in as well? Unless, because he died, but so did Doc Ock.
Yeah. So
So
yeah. Oh
which
yeah.
which Venom are they going to try to bring forward if they decide to do that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's possible they bring over Tom Hardy's version of Venom, as the other version of Venom wasn't very popular.
Right,
It was one
right,
of the
yeah,
it was one of the things that was most criticized for, and pretty much was a thing that pretty much ended the franchise with Tobey Maguire. So
yeah, yeah. Nothing against Topher Grace, but he just didn't do it for me as Eddie Brock.
no.
Tom Hardy did much better, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right, so that's all of our conspiracy theories and talks over Venom 2. So we're gonna switch courses and we're gonna talk about What If. All right, and then our last thing, the What If series has concluded on Disney Plus. With as of recording this, the last episode went up, hours ago. So overall, I want to get your thoughts on What If. As watching this episode, I know you weren't big into it at first because you're not into the whole animated thing. I think I remember you saying that.
Yes.
So, as someone who went and watched it, overall, what was your opinion? By watching it, did it change your mind how you felt about it, or like how would you rate it? How did you feel about it?
I will say the series grew on me. I wasn't super impressed in the beginning
Yeah,
because I went into it with my own biases, but it grew on me as the series went on, especially following the story of Ultron, as he's one of my all-time favorite Marvel villains. So they
yeah.
really won me over once it pivoted to that point.
I mean, I same way. I'm not into like I know DC has like a lot of these animated type movies that I just don't watch because I'm just not into them. But being a really big fan of Marvel, I was like, okay, Marvel's never really let me down. I mean, they've had a few movies that kind of let me down, being a little disappointed. But overall, they do a good job of really hooking me in and making me fascinated by the stories they tell. So overall, it was a good series. I think it just doesn't hold a lot of value because I know at the end of the day, it's not going to tie into the real MCU. They kind of use this as an alternative line to the MCU. As you see in every episode, a different storyline, and some are like direct replicas of stories you see in the MCU, just like different tweaks to it to like, I guess, for comedy effect or something like that. And you see a lot of that in that very last episode. With the opening scene with Captain Carter jumping out of the plane and pretty much reliving the line between him and Black Widow word for word, but obviously as a girl instead of a guy. So I guess one of the good things they did, I guess, in this series as the overall arc, like when I watched each one of these episodes, I thought, okay, they're standalone stories. Some of them are going to get sequels, right? Like I could see Captain Carter getting a sequel. I could see the zombie episode getting a sequel, and then some were kind of definitive ends, like the Doctor Strange episode where, it seemed like that was it. It was over. So I thought like, okay, they're going to set up a season 2 of What If, but at the last episode, you realize they just tied all these different What If universes into one, overarching story. And so I definitely was caught off guard with that. At first, I thought it was just gonna be a bunch of solo, a bunch of solo stories. Do you feel like that added value to the series, them tying them all in at the end, or do you feel like even if they didn't, it would have stood alone as like a good story to watch?
I feel that the final episode of What If, bringing everything together, constituted it being better than the sum of its parts,
Yeah,
where the individual stories could have stood alone and been successful on their own, but like seeing all these threads, run alongside each other, and they occasionally would intersect in these tiny ways, but then to see everything just come together in one giant knot at the end of the thread, I think was well done, and I think it was the what they should have done.
the end of the thing with Strange locking Ultron and what is that Hydra scientist's name? I can't think of his name. Locking him into a ball, same thing, or into its own separate universe. I'm assuming that's what it was because like Strange was sucked into like his own like little ball of his own universe with nothing left. Yeah, I mean, do you think they'll bring this series back, play off what we already know, or do you think this is a one-off and we're never going to get this like what if series again?
If they decide to continue the series, I think it's going to be taken in a different direction. I think this story arc has concluded in a clean enough way that they could walk away and be done with it.
Yeah.
But I would like to see sort of the end result of, Killmonger's fight with Arnim Zola there in that I guess you could call it like a pocket dimension.
Yeah.
Sort of like what Strange was stored away in. For his time away.
Yeah.
But I think they could revisit that if they wanted to, but they also wrapped it up in a nice enough way that they could just cut and establish something new if that was their plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really up in the air. I mean, overall, it was a decent series. I don't think it would rank at the very top, like have to watch type of thing, especially since it has no tie, at least that we're aware of, to the real MCU. I mean, would you recommend this to somebody, or do you think this is like a series like, hey, if you have no interest, you're not really missing much? Like, how would you recommend this or not recommend this to somebody?
I feel like the What If series as a whole is more of a niche pick for the diehard Marvel fans,
Yeah.
or somewhere in between. If you're just a fan of the MCU, a more casual fan, and you've just stopped at the movies, I don't really know how much this is gonna give to you, how much entertainment it'll offer. I mean, it's okay, but it's really exploring those tangents the comics were really excellent at, and it's just bringing that alternate angle to life to a further degree. But
Yeah.
I think it would do well. People could be entertained well enough, but those who aren't super invested in the stories, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, I think one thing they really need to do after this is really get away from the Infinity Stones. Right, this entire arc has been nothing but Infinity Stones. The What If series was nothing. Eventually came down to the Infinity Stones. I think they have to move on to a different branch, and I'm sure that's what Phase 4 is currently doing in the MCU. But they definitely need to get away from the Infinity Stones. Because it's kind of, I think it's played itself out enough times now. How do you feel?
Yeah, I believe they should be done with the Infinity Stones. I think those had their 15 minutes of fame. I mean, even in the Loki series, which should to a degree at least be tied into the MCU, they basically shut the door on being at the TBA with all those Infinity Stones. Oh, these things are useless. We have so many of them. I think that was their way of saying, okay, this is the chapter ends. Time for the new stuff.
Yeah.
Opening up with the multiverse.
So, guys, if you guys enjoy this type of series, right, this is my pilot episode. I thank Info Dealer for coming on and joining me during just trying something new on this channel. Because, like I said, I'm a huge Marvel fan. I'm not a hardcore, know all the comic kind of stuff, but I love the movie. I love the movies. I love the shows. I'm definitely probably for life, at least until they really do a bang up job, continue to follow Marvel. So with that said, if you guys enjoyed this and want to see more of this kind of content, hit that thumbs up button. If you're new and haven't done so already, hit that subscribe. And if you want to be notified, just in case I keep doing this, turn on that notification bell. And with all that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.